Greene, brought to you today by Marcus and Mack, voted best personal injury law firm in the Best of Indiana County contest. Marcus and Mack, a law firm representing injured people, and we've turned this into almost an annual habit of visiting with you on June the 6th, and there's a specific reason for that. This is today the 79th anniversary of the invasion of Normandy, and you have a very specific family connection to it that we've talked about in the past. Was your uncle Silbert Greene, correct?
Pershing Greene.
Silbert Pershing Greene. And I was trying to remember earlier today, was he killed on D-Day or in the days after?
Yes, he was killed on D-Day. He hit the beach at 6:30 a.m. and an hour and a half later, which would be pretty much the time we're talking right now, he was shot in the helmet by a sniper. He was a staff sergeant. Mm-hmm. He had 12 men under him, and they all were killed by this sniper on D-Day. So that was 79 years ago. And first of all, I'm going to tell you, I'm very grateful for you letting me share this again, because I'm getting older, we're all getting older, and although I wasn't there on D-Day, I have this history about my uncle that I think is sort of fascinating. When I get to telling you about Sergeant Malcolm Appleman from Johnstown.
Yeah. It's a story that has a few twists and turns in it. One of the aspects of the story that fascinates me most is that you said shot in the helmet. That helmet is today preserved in the museum at Normandy.
Yes, at the Big Red One in Normandy, in a little town called Colville-sur-Mer. That was where he was shot and killed by the sniper. The owner of the museum, about 13 years ago, emailed me and told me that he had found my uncle's equipment. He got this from a farmer who lived there during the war, and he picked this equipment up, the farmer did, and kept it all these years. Then when the museum was built, actually near the spot where he was killed, the farmer came over and donated his helmet, canteen, and a couple other things that he had found there on the ground. So this gentleman who owns the museum did research on my uncle for years, and he verified it was him, because the helmet, for example, had markings for an NCO. Since he was a staff sergeant, he was the only one with this 12 men, and that's one way he identified it. So he did this research, and he has this on display in his museum as we speak.
Yeah.
And I might mention also that my grandmother had 6 boys. She passed away at 35. She never realized that her son was killed on D-Day. And my grandfather, who died at 51, he died in January 1944, so he never knew that his son was killed at Omaha Beach. And he hit Omaha. It was called Easy Red Beach in the beginning, but later they called it Bloody Red Beach. His unit, the 16th Infantry G Company, was the first unit to break through the enemy lines. And behind them was, you might note the picture you see sometimes with the personnel carrier dropping its front. And
sure.
Well, that group were right behind G Company. That was E Company. Mm-hmm. And they were right behind his unit. But he did make the beach. An hour and a half later, he lost his life at Omaha Beach. And four of my uncles, including my father, were in World War II at the same time. Out of 6, 4 were fighting at the same time, different areas of the war.
Yeah. The stories of Normandy, we've had noted authors on to talk about D-Day in the past, and they have told us some absolutely haunting stories, but none are as good as this one, I think, because this story, as I said, there's more than a few twists and turns in it. Now, bring your uncle from Johnstown into this whole tale.
Yes, the owner of the Big Red One Museum sent me a picture of my uncle and this other sergeant 2 days before they were deployed to Omaha Beach. The other soldier was Sergeant Malcolm Appleman. And he, like I say, he also died the same day. They were friends and comrades, warriors. And so I did some research on this Malcolm Appleman, and I found that Malcolm Appleman was from Johnstown, Pennsylvania. Now, I'm from West Virginia. My whole family's from West Virginia. No connection to Johnstown, Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
So I found his grave site in Johnstown at the Grandview Cemetery years ago. And every year I go over there on D-Day and put a flag on Malcolm's grave.
Mm-hmm.
And we were over there yesterday. My wife and I went over and we placed a flag and said a little prayer. But my point is, we should never forget. As I looked down this street coming in here today, I saw these flags. It was joy. And we're right across from the memorial where soldiers' names are on the wall by the courthouse. Mm-hmm. That's so inspiring to me. These people gave their lives. And unfortunately, it seems that today that a lot of the younger folks don't realize what they did on D-Day. This was the greatest generation. And I also wanted to mention that he's buried in Cambridge, England. And the family felt that since he died over there, that's where he should be buried. And I sent a letter or email to the cemetery. They sent me a picture of his grave. And they sent a nice letter. And in the letter they said, you might notice that the lettering on the tombstone is a little darker than the tombstone. Mm-hmm. They said, this is sand from Omaha Beach that he earned.
Yeah.
And I thought that was very, very touching. But he wasn't the only one who lost their lives. I must say that this has been a sort of personal journey for me to do all the research I can on my Uncle Silbert, mm-hmm. because I don't want him or any other soldier to ever be forgotten.
Yes, we've had a number of folks on to talk about the Normandy invasion and what came after, of course, which was the onward assault as the Allied forces went through France, mm-hmm. Into Belgium and mm-hmm. and onward toward Germany, and it was really the culminating event. Winston Churchill, I believe it was, who said, "This is not the beginning of the end; it's the end of the beginning." This was the event that really gave Americans hope that this war would turn in our favor, because the news hadn't been good for a lot of us until that time.
Well, it's interesting how life has many turns. You mentioned that. And here we are. We were fighting a war, and part of my family is German. Mm-hmm. And we all inherit those traits, and it's great that we can get together and love each other now instead of fighting. At one time enemy is now our friend. Could I read a note here?
Sure.
This was a letter written back home from Silbert. This was December 22nd, 1942. Here's a quote. I sure do have my fun. All the boys call me Slim Greene, and Donald Duck, because I mock a duck for them. I have quite a few friends here, and I can make friends anywhere I go. From good old Master Sergeant Army Silbert Slim Greene. Ha, ha, ha. So I thought, that's, yeah. we had this letter in his writing, and he had no idea in 1942 that he would be on the beaches of Omaha on June the 6th, 1944.
You imagine the people back home getting a letter such as that, and it was so difficult to get mail through.
Oh, yes.
To and from.
Yes.
Whether it was to the European theater or to the Pacific theater.
Yes.
And for that letter to come and just those few brief words must have been a great relief to his family back here. And at the same time, for him to receive a letter from back here, however delayed they might be in getting to him, that connection between here and there was vital. for everybody. And as they were approaching the Normandy beaches on the early morning hours of June the 6th in 1944, it must have been for them just a frightening time, yes, but a time of great anxiety. And we will never understand what it was that they were going through.
Well, if you watch the movie Saving Private Ryan, I would say the first 10 minutes, that's what my uncle experienced.
Yeah.
And you think about, he was a young man, 24 years old, not married. And all the things that we've been able to enjoy in our life for 79 years. I mean, he didn't have that.
Mm-hmm.
He and many, many others didn't have that. So they were human beings. They were people. They weren't war heroes in the sense they wanted to be a war hero. They were just folks who had to go. And the stories we've all read is when they were on those personnel carriers, the young men were afraid. They were shaking. They were vomiting. So you think about those things, that's pretty deep. But facts are the facts. We had a great generation. And some are still alive. I saw some on TV this morning.
Yeah.
100 years old. So I think it's a nice tribute for WCCS and yourself to give me the opportunity to share a little bit about a family member who was right there on Omaha Beach, Big Red or Easy Red, then later Bloody Red Beach, and be able to read his notes, because this is not movie stuff. This is the real deal.
Indeed it is. As your friend and mine, our great friend J.D. Varner would say, they were warriors standing in the defense of freedom, and that's what it's all about.
Yes. Well, by the way, we miss J.D.
We sure do. Carson, thanks so much for coming for the visit. We appreciate that, and we do hope that nobody ever forgets D-Day and the greatest generation in World War II.
Thank you, and God bless.
It is the voice of Indiana County. It's WCCS 101.1 FM.